Hey creators, welcome back to part 3 of our Tinkercad tutorial series. Go ahead and grab your computer, log in, and let's get started. All right, and once we are in the Let's Learn Tinkercad page, we're gonna scroll down and go to section 3, moving, rotating, and scaling objects. Now we're gonna move some things around. Click Next. Now that you've learned how to whiz around the work plane, it's time to really get down to working with objects. In this lesson, you're gonna learn more about the physical properties of those objects. Select Next. We're going to need an object to manipulate. Let's start with a box. Place a box exactly within the hint. Now, look at the hint. You'll notice that it isn't precisely aligned on major grid lines. It's not uncommon to miss the major grid lines when you first put an object down. Let's fix that. Nudging. Now that you have the box on the work plane, how do you move it just a tiny bit? We can nudge it into place. Nudging is moving any selected object in small, controlled hops by using the arrow keys. Each hop is a 1 millimeter step. You can also nudge objects along the Z-axis by holding Control, Command on a Mac, while pressing the up and down or down arrow keys. Finally, you can nudge objects in 1 centimeter steps along any axis by holding down the Shift key. Use the arrow keys to push the box over to the nearest major grid line. When you're done, continue to the next step. The power of undo. What if you've moved your object too far? You can fix it very easily using undo and redo. You'll find the undo and redo tools in the menu bar, represented by arrows pointing in clockwise and counterclockwise directions. In fact, if you think about it, these tools are kind of like going forwards and backwards in time. Use the undo until your object has returned to its original position. When you're done, continue to the next step. Rotation. In the last lesson, you learned about translation, linear movement along our 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. Rotation is movement in a circular motion around the axes. Let's look at our 3D modeler's salute. Each finger also has a circular arrow moving around an axis, like a bicycle wheel rotating around its axle. Let's try some rotation. Rotation handles. When you have an object selected, Tinkercad will display 3 rotation handles in the shape of semicircles with arrows on both ends. They look like little fish hooks. Grabbing these handles will allow you to rotate around 1 axis at a time. Next, we'll see what happens when we use them. Rotation protractor. When you mouse over a rotation handle, a protractor will appear to help you measure your rotation. When you click and hold the handle, as you move your mouse, the object will begin to rotate. Tinkercad has 3 methods of rotation: fine, medium, and large. As you rotate your object, if you keep your cursor outside of the protractor, your rotation will move in 1 degree hops. When you keep the cursor within the protractor, your rotation will make 22.5 degree hops. Lastly, when you hold down Shift, your object will snap at large 45 degree hops. Let's test this out. Move your object in 1 degree, 22.5 degrees, and 45 degree steps. Undo the rotation to return your object to its original position. And when you're done, continue to the next step. Rotating around the X and Y axes. Rotating around the Z axis is the most intuitive because the Z axis extends perpendicular from the work plane. The X and Y axes both travel through the work plane, so sometimes it's hard to determine which axis is which. From the home position, the Y axis extends forward, or away from you into the screen, while the X-axis extends from the left of the screen to the right. Rotate your object around its X and Y axes. Undo the rotation to return your object to its original position. Once you've done that, go ahead and click Next. Scaling an object. Now that we've mastered translation and rotation, it's time to stop moving the object and start changing it. Scaling is increasing or decreasing the size of an object. When you select an object, you will see 5 white and 4 black squares. These are the scaling handles. When you move your mouse over these handles, you will see dimensions for length, height, and width. Go ahead and mouse over the black handles, and you will see 1 dimension along the X or Y axis. Mouse over the white handles, and you will see both dimensions along the X and Y axes. Mouse over the white handle on the top, and you will see the dimension for the Z axis. Continue to the next step. Scaling along the Z axis. Let's start by making the object taller or shorter. The white handle at the top of the box is the Z axis scale handle, and it allows you to increase or decrease an object's dimensions along the Z axis. Grab the white box above the object and pull in any direction. Undo the scaling and return your object to its original shape. Then click Next. The X and Y axes corner handles. When using the corner handles, you can change objects along both the X and Y dimensions. And as you do this, you will see a measurement for each. Grab a white corner handle and pull. Undo the scaling to return your object to its original position, and then continue to the next page. X and Y axes side drag handles. If you only want to change one dimension, as we did with the Z axis, you can use the black drag handles on the side. This will give you finer control over the shape of your object and only show you a measurement for the dimension you are working with. Go ahead and grab a black side handle and pull. Undo the scaling to return your object to its original position, and then select Next. Shift scale and proportional scaling. What if you want to scale an object so that it maintains proportions? Meaning, what if you want to change the size but not the shape? While scaling an object, hold down the Shift key. You'll want to grab any handle while holding Shift and pull. Undo the scaling to return your object to its original position and continue to the next step. Scaling about the center of an object. Previously, when you were scaling an object, the center of your object moved too. What if you want to keep your object centered? For example, you want to make the wings on your supersonic robotic butterfly wider while keeping the wings centered on its back. How do you do that? All you need to do is hold down the Alt key, or Alt/Option on a Mac. Grab any handle while holding Alt or Alt/Option and pull. Undo the scaling to return your object to its original position, and continue on the next page. Proportional scaling about the center. What if you want the flower on your organically grown, biopowered death ray fly trap to be a little smaller, while not changing the shape and still keeping it centered on the stalk of doom? Hold Shift and Alt. Grab any handle while holding Shift and Alt or Option on a Mac and pull. Undo the scaling to return your object to its original position and click Next. Scale plus rotation equals skew. What if you want to create a shape that's not in the Shapes menu? For example, there isn't a parallelogram. How do you make one? Don't worry, you can make one on your own in just 2 easy steps. Step 1, rotate your box 22.5 degrees. Use the black side handle to stretch the rotated box. If needed, nudge your shape into the targeted position. Once it matches the hint, go ahead and continue to the next step. Deleting an object. What do you do if you just realized that you didn't want to start with a box? You wanted to start with a triangle roof. Let's fix it with the good old delete function. Select your item, hit the delete or backspace key, and continue to the next step. You're done. This was a challenging lesson and you did a great job. If you ever need a refresher on moving, rotating, and scaling objects, you can always come back and repeat this awesome lesson. And that's it. Thanks for joining us for this tutorial. Stay tuned for our next one. And as always, keep creating.